She said, "No one needs libraries anymore."
Are you ready with your melodic tones, James?
I know, right? Well,
Are you ready
stupid,
with
that's
your
why.
melodic tones?
Oh, I'm afraid to say there's an elaborate thing around here.
Don't. You keep that to yourself. Well, and she's not even from my town. You know, if you live in the town, then you're entitled to an opinion. You don't even live in my damn town.
Right?
It's time.
Step up.
Well, she got, you know. Stand by.
All right. Hey, showtime.
The Senate of the United States for an outright picking up every one of them. If America turn them all in, I would have done it.
It's time for On Target Radio, Chicagoland's only radio dedicated to the red meat issues that affect your life, from gun control to freedom of speech. Now, debating, banking, and discussing these issues. Here are your
Stress them.
David and Gretchen Fritz.
Welcome to On Target Radio. Tonight, David and Gretchen's guests will be James Martyr, a Republican candidate challenging Mark Kirk in the United States Senate. They'll be talking about the controversy surrounding the Republicans refusing to allow the president to appoint a Supreme Court justice to replace Antonin Scalia, Martyr's view on the Second Amendment, the proposed 20-week abortion bill, and why James Martyr wants to be a U.S. Senator. All that and more on tonight's On Target Radio. So be sure to give us a call at 312-642-5600 or go to Facebook and like our page, On Target Radio, and ask a question there.
The thing I like most about liberals is you can always tell when they're being disingenuous. It coincides with them decrying something that Republicans are doing that they consider unfair or unprecedented. Take, for instance, the Roman circus developing around the Supreme Court vacancy as a result of the death of Justice Antonin Scalia. President Obama recently said it would be difficult for Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell to explain his decision not to consider a Supreme Court nominee without looking like he's motivated by politics. The president called the Republicans' position so unprecedented it risked the integrity of the U.S. judicial system. But that's not our job, he said. Our job is to fulfill our constitutional duties. They've suggested that there have been times that Democrats have said it would be wise for a president not to nominate someone. We know senators say stuff all the time. Well now, boys and girls, our president has unintentionally hacked up a fur ball of wisdom. We do know senators say stuff all the time. Senator Chuck Schumer, a Democrat from New York, said stuff in 2007 about how President George W. Bush shouldn't get to pick any more Supreme Court justices because Schumer was afraid the bench leaned too far right. Schumer made this remark a whole 19 months before the next president was inaugurated. In 2006, then Senator Barack Obama said stuff when he supported the Democratic-led filibuster to stop Justice Samuel Alito from making it to the Supreme Court. There are some who believe that the president, having won the election, should have complete authority to appoint his nominee. That once you get beyond intellect and personal character, there should be no further question as to whether the judge should be confirmed. I disagree with this view, Obama said. In 1992, a Washington Post interview, Senator Joe Biden, then the chairman of the Judiciary Committee, said stuff by arguing against confirmation hearings of a prospective SCOTUS nominee by President George H.W. Bush. Quote, if someone steps down, I would highly recommend the president not name someone, not send a name up. If Bush did send someone up, I would ask the Senate to seriously consider not having a hearing on that nominee, unquote. In 1987, AFL-CIO flexed its muscle to block then-President Ronald Reagan's nominee, Robert Bork. They dragged Bork through a mud pile. Senator Ted Kennedy said stuff in a floor speech, quote, Robert Bork's America is a land in which women would be forced into back alley abortions. Blacks would sit in segregated lunch counters. Rogue police could break down citizens' doors in midnight raids. School children could not be taught about evolution. Writers and artists could be censored at the whim of the government, unquote. Apparently, Kennedy's ability to interpret reality was similar to his ability to drive. Bork's name became synonymous with using dirty politics to prevent Supreme Court justice appointment. And years later, Democratic groups vowed to Bork Justice Clarence Thomas, George H.W. Bush's nominee to the Supreme Court. We're going to Bork him, Flo Kennedy of the National Organization for Women said. We need to kill him politically. Staring in the resolute eyes of Senator Mitch McConnell, Obama has moved off the unprecedented line of gibberish and suggested an even number of justices, ideologically split down the middle, would result in tied decisions, which means the lower court's opinion stands. Not so, said two justices, identified only as one conservative and one liberal. They concurred the court could get along just fine for as long as it takes. Clinton appointee Justice Stephen Breyer told NBC News, the fact is, historically, half the Supreme Court's decisions are unanimous. Perhaps 20% are decided by a tie-breaking 5-4 vote. For the most part, things won't change, he said. Here's a word of advice for Senator McConnell. Senator, it won't be that difficult for you to explain holding off on a Supreme Court appointment until the next president is elected. The fact is, you'll be taking a page out of the liberal playbook. Therefore, doing so will be acting in the spirit of bipartisan cooperation. And that, Gretchen, is my rant for the week.
Excellent. Yeah, Democrats, especially Obama, are known for their double standards.
When it works for them, it works for them. But when it works for us, it works for them. That's kind of how it goes. That's how we work. Well, we got a guest in the studio tonight, and we're really happy to say hi to James Marder, who's running for I was going to say Supreme Court, who's running for the Senate against
Senator Mark Kirk.
Yeah, it's
Dun, dun, dun.
a true core conservative to the heart, isn't he?
No.
So just this whole thing, let's, since we're talking about it, the Supreme Court thing, which theoretically you could be involved in the appointment of the next Supreme Court justice.
Absolutely.
And so it's a big hot issue right now. And you're listening to AM560 The Answer. This is On Target Radio. Give us a call, 312-642-5600. So what would you do in this case? What's your feeling about this?
So as you indicated, there's much precedence for the Senate to take their advise and consent responsibility under the Constitution seriously and not necessarily give any president a blank check. An additional one was in 1960, the Senate Democrats decided that President Eisenhower also shouldn't appoint another appointee in his last year of his term. So there's precedent for it, and you named a bunch. I think that the Senate needs to take its advise and consent seriously.
I think there's a great amount of irony if the President of the United States would say that this is unprecedented when he himself voted against doing this very thing, or he voted for doing this very thing. I don't know how it will work out in the long run, but the bottom line is this specific SCOTUS appointment is really significant because we actually have a 50-50 panel right now. Whatever the next president appoints will have an effect for 25, 30 years.
Correct. And we need justices like Scalia, like Rehnquist, like Alito, like Thomas, those that understand the Constitution, those that understand the Constitution is the master of the Supreme Court, the law of the land of this country, not the other way around. I find it interesting that every June I get to find out what's in the Constitution when I already know what's in the Constitution.
That's exactly right. And I think, people that I've talked to, Republicans, we certainly talk in terms of conservative, but we really talk more in terms of we just want somebody that believes the Constitution is what the country's founded on, and it's not a living document. Instead of literally passing legislation from a judicial perspective.
Exactly. It is our founding document. It's what drives all of our laws. Everything's subordinate to it, and we need to get back to it. We need to restore our country. We need to restore liberty by living under the Constitution, not inventing law. from judicial rulings. And, that's been to me a big problem that we've seen in my lifetime as an adult, and it seems to be getting worse and not better.
They tried to, they brought up the name, I can't remember his name now. He's the governor of Nevada.
Okay.
Do you remember what it is? Offhand? I can't recall.
I don't have the internet, otherwise I'd look it up for you.
That's
In the award-winning studio.
That was subtle. I was very subtle. Her monitor's out, well, her keyboard's out. You can look at it. That's nice.
Yeah.
What is it? Sandoval. Yeah, that's it. Sandoval's his name. At first, when I saw that, I go, "Oh, wait a minute. The president, Obama, is going to select a Republican governor?" Well, then I started reading about Sandoval. Have you ever read up on the guy?
Not really Republican.
No,
I'm guessing.
it's not worth reading. Okay, it's not worth reading. He's like Mark Kirk. He's a rhino. Interestingly enough, the NRA, which is a very big issue for us, the NRA gives him an A rating. He's been very pro-gun, which is great, but if you look on anything else, he's not really conservative. So that was a fleeting moment, and he turned it down anyway. He said, "I don't want it." And he didn't want to get in the limelight, I'm sure. Anyway, we're going to be back with more on Target Radio. When we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about Second Amendment with with James Martyr, who's running with the Senate. That's it. You get old, that's what happens. We'll be back with more on Target Radio after these few messages, and you're listening to AM560 The Answer.
At least you had the right person.
You're running for the Senate.
You can't call me Jim.
Does he remind you of Jim?
No, actually,
I looked out. I just, I looked out at the paper to reassure myself. I put the wrong one up.
no.
Somehow I'll make amends. I apologize. Okay. All right. So when we come back, we'll do 2A. Anything specific you want to set up?
I don't know. Let's get right into it.
You want a firearm?
Yes.
Yeah.
You want the NRA?
I do.
They haven't run
Well,
the ISR?
also,
I just joined the ISR.
You bump
Don't talk about
Well,
it. Don't talk about
actually,
just.
it's a good story.
He doesn't usually do something
NRA
else.
was a member before, but I joined the ISR
Oh.
as I was at the gun shows collecting signatures. It's a good story.
All right, then we'll do the story. I'll tell you something. And some years ago, we had two candidates come in. Gretchen's heard this story 1,000 times, but we had two candidates come into an ISR meeting, right? We're having dinner, and the woman who came in, knowing she's walking into a room full of about 75, gun people, gave her pitch why she was running for Congress and never mentioned guns. Nothing. If she would have said, "Guys, I own a gun I like to shoot," that's it. She could have walked back out. Now, who was it? It was
Steve Weber.
Steve Weber, treasurer. Walked in, didn't talk anything about the election. Talked about his latest hunting trick. That was it. Sealed the deal. That's all he had to do. So, yeah, tell him whatever the story is, assuming it's a good story. That wins people. That'll do it. It'll win people over.
And it proves that you have cred.
Yeah, cred.
It's not just it's not like, oh yeah, I went and bought a gun so that I could say yes, I own a gun.
Which has happened.
Right.
What is the story? ISRA.
Oh, ISRA. Well, I was part of the getting 5,000 signatures. We went to a lot of gun shows, and you'd go out there. I'm running against Mark. Who are you? Of course, no one knows who I am. I'm running against Mark Kirk. Give me the thing. Just scribble it.
Sign it.
Sign it. A lot of Cook County signatures as well. So.
That's what we do. People like my mom.
Especially Cook County. Oh, man.
That's one of the advantages.
They're so screwed.
Page County, King County, all those kinds
Yeah.
of things.
Oh,
I
really?
love Sparkletts.
How many?
Really? It was 9.
Yeah. Do you hunt or anything? Or what do you
No,
do?
I actually did not grow up hunting or anything. My dad was not a hunter. I'm an avid outdoorsman and fisherman.
Oh, you really?
Yeah, I do that whenever I can.
I've done some. I actually am a journalist. I'm semi-retired now, but I used to. My field was business aviation, corporate jets, and I've worked for the biggest business aviation publication in the world. And we did have one publication we did that was written for the owner. Mostly were for flight crews and that kind of thing. But the one was Business Jet Traveler. And we did one column in that magazine that was lifestyle. 30 seconds. It was about tax and stuff. And I used to do stuff. I got to go fly fishing all over the world. I'd write these columns. It was great. Great way to live.
20 seconds.
Hubba hubba.
You're listening to On Target Radio on AM560 The Answer. Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz. Here's David and Gretchen sharing more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect your life.
All right, Gretchen, let's see if I can not screw it up this time, okay?
Okay.
We're here today with James Martyr, who's running for Senate against,
Senator Mark Kirk.
that's it, Senator Mark Kirk. And I'm sure that
It's
breaks.
probably painful for him, for you to make him say that, so I'll say it from now on.
Okay, I'll point to you.
Okay.
So
I'll take care of that.
you're running against Mark Kirk, who we don't believe he's a Republican at all. But anyway,
We unilaterally dislike him.
Yeah. So Second Amendment, that's a big issue, particularly with our people.
Yes.
Do you own a firearm?
Yes, I do. You know, I bought my first firearm from my grandfather when I was 21 years old. It's a 9-shot revolver, high standard, 22 caliber
22, okay.
handgun, and it was his for basically target shooting for practice in his basement, something he could do in his house. He had a store. He always did concealed carry when he was over that store, and it's just a piece of my grandfather. I just wanted
Sure.
wanted to have that at that time. Some years ago, not much later, but in the recent past, I went out and bought a Remington 1187 Super Mag, and I'm not I would say I'm not a big gun guy from growing up that way, but I respect the Constitution, the Second Amendment. I know that the sitting senator recently made some derogatory comments about hunters, and Second Amendment was about that. Well, guess what, folks? It's not about hunting. It's not about shooting. It is about the right to keep and bear arms, to defend ourselves from threats, which would include tyrannical governments, which was the original purpose why we have the Second Amendment. And I think we need to stand by that.
Yeah, and you're absolutely right. And right now, this president, whether it's true or not, the perception clearly is that society's just devolving. It really is. It's just unraveling. And people are very worried about them come get our guns and that kind of thing. And the NRA, of course, is a major influence in gun legislation. And so is the Illinois State Rifle Association. And you remember, is that right? Both, are you not?
Yes, I've been a member of the NRA for a number of years. 3 or 4 is when I first joined it, quite a long time before getting into this race. And one of the reasons I joined it is because, and again, like I said, I didn't grow up in a family where my father hunted. We were a shooting family, so to speak. But as a kid, as a scout, and with our scouts, I've been a scout master for 17 years now. And going to the rifle range, it's one of those great events when you get kids out there. Oxford, Wisconsin, Camp Friedland Leslie, they got a great range. Some years later, my son was a counselor up there, so he was one of the instructors. So he got trained on how to be an instructor. We had a day where my father, my daughter, my wife, and I were all able to shoot at the range up there at Friedland Leslie. And the scouts every year, that's the event they want to go to. And we need a program, and the NRA is great about instruction, gun safety instruction. That's what they're more about. A lot of people think they're only lobbyists, but the main thing they do is instruction and gun safety. Wonderful organization.
And, when a politician gets involved with any gun group, I remember we talked earlier, Chris Lawson.
Yes.
20 years ago, Chris Lawson was coming to our youth camp, our NRA youth camps, and, shaking hands. But to this day, all these years later, when I run into people whose kids used to go to those camps, they go, "Hey, have you seen Chris lately?" They remember him. And,
Yes.
And you can be sure they vote for him if they're in his district back when he was in the state, and now he's on the board of
King
King
County.
County, yep.
People with guns, the gun guys, the ISRA people, the NRA people, they remember who supports them and who doesn't.
Yeah.
It's crystal clear.
And
Yeah,
I did
very well.
hit a number of gun shows on the campaign trail during the petition drive. You need 5,000 signatures. And a lot of the gun shows, it was very good to be there and say, "Hey, look, I'm running for U.S. Senate." And they're like, "Who are you? Why do we care?" "Oh, I'm running against Mark Kirk. Give me that petition. Let me sign it."
Exactly. Exactly. There's a guy who was at the Chicagoland Gun Show in Rosemont. He was collecting petition signatures for the Fair Map Amendment because they had to start over. And I saw him again. He was sitting outside in the cold, outside the DMV on Friday.
Is that right?
He was, yeah. I'm like, you are hardcore. Because I thought it was the same guy. And I said, he asked me to sign. I said, I signed it at the Chicagoland Gun Show. He goes, I was there. I'm like, I remember you.
That's interesting. That's
Yeah.
hardcore.
But that's the kind of people we're talking about.
Yep. You're listening on Target Radio, this AM560 The Answer. Give us a call, 312-642-5600 if we haven't gotten a call tonight. Second Amendment is a big deal because, as you said earlier, it's about tyranny. It's not, you know what, personal protection is fine, recreation, so all that's fine stuff. But the reality is the Founding Fathers did this specifically. The common man should have the same level of arms that the military does because of King George.
Absolutely.
That's what it came from. And you hear this president loves to say, nobody wants to come after your guns. We just want common sense gun legislation. And then he keeps referring to what they did in Australia, which was
Confiscation.
they confiscated the guns, right? And he thinks he's smart. He thinks he's going to get away with that.
Well, I'm sure he's talking to people who don't know what he's talking about, but he's also there's also some people listening who do know what he's talking about.
I can give you a couple examples. A few gentlemen came up to me at some of these gun shows. We were collecting petition signatures. And they said, look, I've been denied my Second Amendment rights. I've never been convicted of anything, not the least withstanding a felony. But they were involved in an altercation, so there's a record of that. That was used against them in the state of Illinois to deny them a FOID card so they can't legally own a gun. I was in Iroquois County last night at their Lincoln Day dinner, and a woman came up to me after that, and I relayed those stories about the gentleman at the gun shows. And she said, look, you know, I had a friend of mine's daughter who became pregnant and wanted to talk to someone about counseling, and she took this person to a counselor. And the mother didn't like the outcome of that. They got a restraining order against her, took away her FOID card because she gave her counseling on something else, and they put that restraining order. So they're using that to take away people's rights to keep and bear arms. So I think we've got a big problem there.
They are indeed, and the latest one is not real new, but fairly new, is if you make the no-fly list. Obama now says, well, if you make the no-fly list, you shouldn't have a gun. But yet, nobody knows how you get on the no-fly list. Nobody knows how you get off the no-fly list.
More importantly.
Right. Right.
And there are minors. There are children on the no-fly
Infants in
list.
one case.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And so, yeah, I mean, it's completely arbitrary.
And I think it's the due process clause, right? So those things are violating the due process. So it goes hand in hand with the Second Amendment. You can't have that Second Amendment taken away if you haven't been convicted of something. And these are all examples of things nobody was convicted of anything, yet they've been violated their Second Amendment right.
Yeah, and now they come up with this new initiative. Doctors are supposed to ask you, if you want money, federal money, you've got to play the game. You got to go into the electronic system, record-keeping thing, and they ask you just lots of different kinds of questions. But one of them is, do you have guns in your house? What business is it of the doctor?
Yeah, my response to that is no comment and none of your business.
Yeah. A friend of mine was asked that question, and they're not from here. I haven't heard anybody hear that. Certainly not my doctor, but a friend of mine who was out of state got asked that question. And his response was, when you can tell me what that has to do with my health, we'll talk about it. Otherwise, it's none of your business.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Well, and a lot of, as you say, a lot of doctors are simply asking it because they've been told to ask it, not because they want to ask
Right.
it.
If they want to get the money, and
Right.
you got to do it.
Right.
The other thing that they're doing now is they're telling, like, school officials and doctors who have no qualification in psychiatry whatsoever.
Mm-hmm.
If that person seems unstable to you, report them, and they're going and they're taking guns from them.
Yeah, they want primary care physicians to do low-level mental health screenings for the same purpose.
This president, how many end runs around Congress has this guy made? It's unbelievable. If this were a Republican president, he'd be in jail.
I've also had some vets comment to me on that same line that if they go for treatment to the VA hospital, they have to answer these questions about mental health. And if they answer them, they're recorded as having a problem there. They're using that as a way to take away again, Second Amendment right from veterans who are trying to seek treatment at a VA hospital.
Which is also their
outrageous.
right to do. I mean,
Yes.
they should be able to do that without fear of retribution.
Exactly.
And look what it sets up. It sets up a really bad condition, and that's somebody who actually feels like they need help is afraid to go and ask for it because they don't want to lose their constitutional rights.
Exactly. And what I heard from those vets, that's exactly what they're relaying. That now they're afraid to get the help they need because they're afraid of what they might lose in their Second Amendment.
Exactly. All right, we're going to take a break. We'll be back in a little bit with more on Target Radio. And when we come back, we're going to talk a little bit about abortion Obamacare. That and more on AM560, The Answer. We're just trucking right along.
Shut your mic off, Dave.
What is going on?
It was for half a second.
It's coming and going, coming and going.
It was like,
You shut your mic
You
off.
must have touched it.
How did I shut it off?
You must have bumped it.
Yeah, it was only a
Either that
microphone.
or you hit the table really hard. Did you hit the table really hard?
I don't know.
You did it.
But all that whole segment, I was hearing in my earphones, then it go away and come back, go away.
Check the plug. You might need a window plug.
But you were definitely good.
It's been a while
You were
since-
good
Yeah,
up
I-
only for 1 second.
Yeah, I missed a little piece of it.
It was only 1 second.
Yeah,
You
it
were
wasn't.
good.
It wasn't in
Uh-huh.
No worries.
So there,
Did you hear that?
I did.
A female police officer, rookie,
first day on the job.
gets killed?
Yeah,
Oh,
Where was
man.
that?
There was
Good
also
shot, Maureen.
Virginia.
yeah, Virginia. There was also 2 other that were
Yeah, but
injured.
that was her first day. She was an FTO, a
Yeah.
field training officer.
And yeah, she was a deputy. Who's county.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Responded to domestic.
That's another whole topic. Just, killing cops.
Remember, you're on video and they can
He's doing fine.
He's great. Like during the breaks.
He's the guy wearing the suit.
Well, you're now.
I'm the one you got to worry about.
Close that down. Hey, George, keep rolling.
Nice euphemism for get out of here.
We're not getting any calls. So some nights we get the board lights up, other nights nothing.
Oh, so you know that guy that always messages us on Facebook instead of posting? He messaged us, but I don't have Messenger, and so I'm just like, I put up a comment that says I won't get it if you do a private message, I won't get it.
That's so bizarre.
So you gotta
People
post
that work on that. That's really weird.
I know. Well, it's also bizarre that people, want to send us private messages instead of posting. If it's
And
good
that's what
enough,
typically happens.
if it's good
Mhm.
enough to send it to us, just post it.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna try to say it anyway.
Even the death threat.
Well,
call, man.
and I think they like it. They like it when I read it. So it's like, okay, it doesn't matter if it's a private message or a post. I'll read it out if it's good.
I get hate mail. She gets death threats. It's unfair. I should get the death threat. That's just not fair.
He's so jealous that I
I
got a
am.
death threat.
I was going to pay somebody to call, do a death threat for me on the air, just
Well,
so I
you
can
know,
even it.
if you think about it though, it's just because you don't have a vagina. If you had a vagina, you probably would have had some change. Because it was a woman.
There's nothing I can say. Right?
There's
No matter what I say, it's going to go bad.
Speak quiet.
Yeah, it's going to go bad.
Well, no, because what it was a woman saying, you shouldn't mess around with other people's boyfriends.
Which, if you knew Gretchen,
Yeah,
that's not going to happen.
that's totally not true. So yeah, I mean, it was
to support failed social programs.
It's a jealousy thing.
So you're going to bring this back in and we're going to talk about abortion, right?
Oh, that's what you want to lead out with? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is it.
Research the candidates
I'll
prior.
read it.
This is the magic one.
Make sure the candidate who gets your vote really supports the same causes you do. Look for the most
Well, we really have a lot of listeners. Some nights they don't call, they just listen.
Yeah.
The March 15th,
I listened to a lot of talk radio over the years.
one election.
It's,
I like listening.
we have like a trade show booth, and real, set up tight, 10 foot by whatever trade show booth. And people like flock to us, and they go, "Oh, this is your show every week." And I go, "Why do you call in?" And they go, "Because usually ask the questions that we're thinking."
Someone
So-
uses those.
Unless the subject is like really controversial.
Yeah.
If we throw out a piece of red meat that's really,
Yeah, and
You know.
sometimes, actually, this 20-week abortion ban, maybe John from Crete will call.
if John is on his meds,
Because
He
you
might-
said abortion, so you might have.
He might. John is
pushed him off.
one of our groupies.
One of our regular.
He's
He's actually a WIND groupie. He's
Yeah.
not just an OTR.
He's talks like both ways, and you know we wonder about him. But the funny
He's
thing
like-
about him,
He's like Mel Gibson from Conspiracy Theory.
yeah, exactly.
He
But the
is.
funny thing about him is he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
He really does.
He's not stupid.
Um,
Well, exactly like Mel Gibson in Conspiracy Theory.
That's right. If you say, John, we gotta go to break, you got 30 seconds. He times it. He goes up to 30 seconds, he goes, well, time's up.
He's done a couple of times. He hasn't always, but he's done a couple of times.
So you're gonna bring it back.
I'll bring it back.
You're gonna bring it back. I'll go take a nap. I don't need to be here.
Well, like I said, it's 2 yes or no questions, so. I'll go.
Balances that never seem to go away. Then get ready for a toll-free number.
We could ask him the famous radio question, have you stopped beating your wife yet? What are you gonna answer to that? I mean, no matter what you do, you're caught in a rock and a hard spot. Okay.
990-6976. That's
Stand by.
There we go. It's all yours, kiddo.
990-6976. You're listening to On Target Radio. AM560 The Answer with David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz. Here's David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect you.
And we're back with more on Target Radio. So, James, there were a lot of pro-life groups that were lobbying Congress in the last session to pass our 20-week abortion ban. And they did come very close to passing that. If that came up before you, would you vote for that?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay. And if they need to override a veto, if we get another Democrat in the White House, would you vote for that as well?
Yes, as well. And you know what? There's a recent vote by our senator in Illinois and Susan Collins of Maine, who decided that, they could not stand to defund Planned Parenthood. And that was even after those egregious videos surfaced that effectively showed they were in violation of federal law. And here's where I'm at on that. We need to defund Planned Parenthood, and I will stand for the rule of law. We need someone who will stand for the rule of law. And on those votes, neither of them were standing with the rule of law.
Yeah. Most conservatives feel that money that goes to Planned Parenthood would get much better spent by the county health departments and other groups that provide actual healthcare services to women, which Planned Parenthood really doesn't
Yes,
do.
absolutely.
You know what really irritates me about that? Because I watched every one of those videos. I watched them from the beginning to end. They were disgusting. But what really irritates me is, who do you think in that paradigm gets arrested?
Nobody in our.
No, the videographer.
The guy who shot
Oh, yeah,
the
the
video.
video. That's
the people
right.
who made the video.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes,
they're being prosecuted.
outrageous.
Yeah, they're being prosecuted.
That is classic Obama administration.
Although I will say they were very crafty about it. They were offered a plea bargain, and the 2 people that were charged turned it down because they want Planned Parenthood to have to go into discovery.
Absolutely.
I was like, that is brilliant.
Absolutely. Drag them right through the court. Let's
Yeah.
shine light on them.
Exactly.
One of the things that we have said for a long time, and I'd like your opinion on this, with this president and the way that the Democrats act, we keep saying, I'd be throwing stuff at him constantly. I would constantly be, trying to pass legislation, he's going to veto. I'd have him in court as much as I could. The Republicans aren't doing anything.
Oh yeah, that's been one of my frustrations in the last several years here. Watching the Congress, we elected a Republican Congress back in 2012. We got the Senate back in 2014, and the excuse was, look, we're not going to send anything up there. He's going to veto it anyway. Hello.
So what?
That's what you're supposed to do. That's your job.
Make him own it. Yeah.
Make him own it. Wow.
And that's it. And the theory would be, when the election comes around, you can go, okay, you supported this guy. Look at what he's done. He's vetoed this. He's vetoed this. He's vetoed this. If you're talking about not being cooperative and working in a spirit of cooperation, that's what the Democrats have been doing.
And then we've got my opponent, who on the Obamacare, what I call the Unaffordable Care Act, he said, I've voted his staffers. I haven't been in a place where he's been, but his staffers have said he's voted to repeal Obamacare 40 times. But when the one vote comes up that's going to go to the president's desk, guess what? He doesn't vote for it.
Exactly.
So there you go. There's my opponent for you.
We have Jason on the line from Naperville. Jason, how are you doing this evening? Good. You have a question? There you go.
So actually, what we're just talking about, to me, Obamacare is a disaster. It's as I call it, the Unaffordable Care Act. I'm a small business owner myself. I've been owning my own business for 13 years. And when I left my corporate job and didn't have insurance provided by my employer, I waited to shop in that formerly free insurance market. Since the passage of Obamacare, my health care costs have gone up over 100%, not counting this year's increase because I've been a little busy doing something here, but to the tune of $7,000 more now than in 2010 when that original law was passed. And I've been talking to people that are around the state that have seen similar increases or even higher on top of high deductibles. So now we've got these unaffordable policies that people can't afford, working class people can't afford, high deductibles. Then once they have the policy, they're afraid to go to the hospital because they don't want to be stuck with a high deductible. It's unaffordable. It's killing jobs. It's driving jobs out of the state of Illinois and out of this country, and it needs to be ended and ended quickly.
What's interesting is how this whole thing works. I know of doctors who have said, you know what, I'm retiring early. I'm throwing it in. And businesses go from full-time employees to part-time employees, and then they hit them with the $15 an hour, and so they go to automation. I mean, every idea the Democrats come up with is a genuine loser.
Yeah, it's, you know what, I can't even think of one thing in Washington they're doing well. Least of all, taking over the healthcare, 1/6 of our economy in the healthcare market. It's been a disaster. It needs to go.
Yeah, I agree completely.
Yeah,
And
100%.
we thought that was going to happen when these Republicans got elected. That's what they ran on.
That is exactly it.
And it did not come to fruition. So I don't know. We're going to have to take another break. When we come back, I'm going to ask you the big question. Wait, that doesn't sound right, does it? No. I'm going to ask you, why would you want to do this? Why would you want, as a successful businessman, put yourself in the spotlight? So we're going to talk about that when we come back with more on Target Radio after these few messages. And you're listening to AM560, The Answer.
Not much going on Facebook either.
Stuck in traffic.
What do we got? What do we got? Hello.
The Dan Ryan heading inbound slows down between Roosevelt and the Burns Circle interchange. It's about 16 minutes from 9 to 5.
Somebody put on Facebook, congratulations, Mom and Dad, on 14,600 days of marriage.
Okay.
You got it right.
I got it.
All right. And what's the one we're on? New thing now, right? So like,
She's whispering it. We don't do secrets here. We love our public.
anybody hear that?
It is what I think is hilarious.
If I were going to interview
If
you,
any
like they interview
Republican
Obama,
nominated,
I'd ask you the hard question. What's your favorite color? You know, that sort of stuff.
You were a tree. What type of tree would you be?
Like, that's our sister. We do get to nominate one person. Yeah.
She doesn't want to be Republican nominated.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
But,
Well, she make it a rich because we make it Trump.
That's true. That's true. Trump would be the exception to that. He's
He
not a
was
real.
not really.
Yeah. Or no offense to all the Trump lovers out there.
Did you happen to, I didn't watch the whole thing, but have you seen clips of the last debate?
No, in fact, I've seen almost no debates. The funny thing is, in my house, I'm the political junkie, right? So this presidential cycle, now I'm not seeing anything. I'm too busy out here.
Right. I guess it's a blessing, right?
was a zoo.
Yeah.
The moderator was Wolf Blitzer. He couldn't get a word in. He couldn't ask a question. They were yelling back and forth. It was just some Democrat on Facebook I had to agree with. He goes, that's not how presidents are supposed to act.
Yeah.
I can understand debating. They were just yelling and slurs and insults at each other. It's gone out of control. You're being paged.
Everything's provided. For only $225. Custom rifles made in America, or concealed carry firearms training classes.
Keeping me awake, Dave.
It's great being an American and supporting your Second Amendment like American manufacturing jobs. Nearly 3 decades of experience, DS Arms has you covered. DS Arms.
This sounds like Chris Lawson reading the commercial.
Just off of 14 and
Joe Walsh.
472-777-7260 or visit dsarms.com.
It really does sound like Chris Lawson reading that commercial.
Joe Walsh. So Joe Walsh.
With David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz. Here's David and Gretchen with more interesting conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect you.
And we're back with more on Target Radio. Give us a call, 312-642-5600. It's your chance to ask our guest, James Martyr, why he's running for. Why would you put yourself, a successful businessman, why would you turn a spotlight on you? This is going to be a tough race. There's no question about it.
No question.
You're going to come under a lot of scrutiny. Your family's going to come in. Why would anybody do that? Why? What's the point?
You know what? I looked at what was going on the ballot this year. In my districts, I have a great state rep in Keith Wheeler, a great congressman in Randy Holgren, and a state senator in Jim Overwise. And so if you're in those districts, you're not running against them when you're a Kendall County Republican like I am. So, but look up the ballot, we have a problem. You know, I think we need a real Republican on the ballot. So you look at both sides of the ballot, there's only one Republican out there. I'm that Republican. And we needed someone who would stand up. I started this, I have a passionate premise that the people of this state of Illinois should have a choice on the ballot and should have someone who's not looking out for the powerful corporations and the lobbyists out there.
From a strategic point of view, how does one, it's a state senator. I mean, it's not like it's in Yorkville, okay?
Yes.
It's statewide. You ran for one office before.
Actually, two. I ran for a school board in Midland, Michigan when I was 29 years old. I'm 53 now. Learned a lot about politics in that election and learned a little bit about being a candidate. And then more recently in Oswego, election I never actually intended to get into, but really set up the ability to do this. I ran as a write-in candidate and did pretty well in that. About 20% of the vote, of the total vote. And when we were looking at a 3-person race, I hit about 40% of the vote writing in for my name on the trustee side of the top vote getter. So if you looked at the top vote getter in a three-seat race, there were 6 people on the ballot. I was the 7th person. I still beat somebody on the ballot. And so it went well. Learned a lot about being a candidate, learned a lot about running a campaign, and it really set up the ability to do this. And as I mentioned, the 3 guys that I had, not running against them, but we had a problem at the top of the ticket. Someone needed to do something about it.
And that sums up Illinois politics. The unfortunate thing about Illinois is Republicans are pretty much marginalized throughout the state, which is why I think, to be honest with you, Kirk is a Republican, because Democrats will vote for that Republican. I don't know. It's just it's a screwy system in this state. But how do you tackle something like this? I mean, you have a very limited, when you think about it, a very limited amount of time. And there's some limit to resources, certainly. And you got to cover an entire state. Are you going after certain types of groups or what?
Yeah, I'm going after Republican voters, people that are fed up, both sides of the aisle, that believe we need a Second Amendment constitutional person who believes in limited government and stop taking money out of our wallets, sending it to Washington, laundering it up there, sending it back to the states with strings attached. And I think that's kind of that feeling that you see out there in this presidential race on both sides of the aisle. There are people fed up on both sides. And that's the person I'm going after. We've been to over 150 events since I got in this race. I've traveled the state. My little secret weapon is, look, I do software consulting for a living. I've traveled a lot. I know how to travel. I know how to get around. I've worked in this state, I've worked around the country, I've worked in many countries around the world. I've worked in Mexico for over a dozen weeks, worked in Brazil and South America. More recently was working in Canada and worked on quite a few projects in many of the European countries. So I work with people around the world, but you know, that experience is something that led to being able to do this and run this race.
We have Kathy on the phone. Kathy, how are you doing this evening? Sure. Well, I appreciate the call, Kathy. Thank you very much. And I'm sure you appreciate the vote.
Yes, I do. Absolutely.
It's see, in Southern Illinois. I should have asked her how she found us.
Yeah.
But we get people from all over the country actually calling. So you're making dents all over the state.
Yeah, and you know, I have been downstate. I haven't been everywhere. There's 102 counties in the state.
It's a
I've
huge state.
been officially to almost half of those 102 counties. But I've been down to the city of Marion. I've been to Marion County. I've been to Johnson County, St. Clair, Madison, Macoupin, Christian, McLean, you name it, there's a lot of them. But so we're doing everything we can to get around the state. And I would venture a guess that, you know, if you added up the events I've been to as a candidate in the Senate race, you had the 3 Democrat and you had my opponent together, times it by 2. I think I've been out there to meet the people and find out what the people of Illinois want and what they're looking for in a senator.
Well, I think that's probably the way you got to do it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Certainly, it resonates. All you have to do is say, I'm running against Kirk, and that
Alrighty
resonates.
then.
Yeah,
Yes.
anyone that is actually conservative is going, get his name right. I
Yes.
want to see how it's
Yeah,
spelled.
exactly.
So, yeah, I think that's a really good thing. And once you get the, you get through the primary, we have to have you back on. We'll get you
All
back
right,
on the show.
absolutely.
We're going to be back after a few messages. We'll wrap it all up, and we're going to give you an opportunity to find out how you can help him out in his campaign. All that and more when we come back with more On Target Radio. And you're listening to AM560, The Answer. So here's what we do. How much time you got?
Probably 2:15, 2:30.
So she's going to do her little it's things for the week coming
Thing
up.
to read, yeah.
And then we'll give you a chance. How can people get a hold of you? What do you want to do? What do you want to say?
Website, Facebook page, social media, all that stuff. We do that.
Okay. So we'll give you 30, 45 seconds, something like that. You can make a pitch. That's usually plenty of time. You got plenty of time to work. Okay.
You out of trouble and even how to deal with home invasions. Firearm, ammunition, holster, class notebook, and lunch are provided. Safer USA, the Aurora Sports Club
Safer USA.
participated in
There we are.
Illinois Concealment Program. It also qualifies you for Florida, Utah, and Arizona non-resident permits. Find out what over 6,000 students already know at saferusa.com.
Or call 815-741-3474. That's 815-741-3474.
1 minute.
USA. Choosing to own a firearm is your business. Teaching you to own responsibly is ours.
The following is a political announcement. Do no harm.
It's an oath every doctor takes, and Dr. Nick Stella takes that oath very seriously.
You know Nick?
Yes, I do.
Nice guy.
I've met a lot of folks on the campaign trail. I've met Nick quite a bit. I know pretty much all the 11th congressional district candidates.
They're actually all.
I like. Whoever wins that is a winner in my mind. So.
I can't remember what's his name.
Herman White.
Herman. Yeah, we met him, and then we were at a Plainfield thing, and then he came out to our club, the Aurora Sportsman's Club, which, by the way, you can do if you wanted to do it. We get usually 50 to 100 members there. We got 700 members though in the club. But anyway, he came out. And just said I'm running, blah blah blah. Just a really nice man, truly a nice man.
Yeah.
But we basically like them all.
Yeah, I do too.
On Target Radio on AM560 The Answer with David Lombardo and Gretchen Fritz. Here's David and Gretchen. More conversation on gun control, concealed carry, freedom of speech, and other red meat issues that affect your.
And we're back. More on Target Radio. We're going to do Gretchen's action items coming up now, and then we're going to give James an opportunity to tell you how you can help him out because he's running against Mark Kirk. Okay,
Yes.
What can you say? You don't need to know more than that. Am I right? Absolutely.
Right. The Illinois State Rifle Association is an officially recognized local qualifying location for American Marksman, a new shooting competition television show by Outdoor Sportsman Group. Amateur target shooters from the area will have the chance to qualify to earn bids to the Great Lakes Regional Championship and ultimately for the American Marksmanship National Championship, where they will compete for the grand prize of $50,000 and the title of the very first American Marksman. To participate, register at ammarksman.com. Competitors will come to the ISRA range in Bonfield on Saturday and Sunday mornings from 8 a.m. until noon and during March, April, and May of 2016, where they will be taken through the local qualifying course of fire. You are cordially invited to join Senator Ted Cruz at the Northwest Suburban Lincoln Day Dinner on Friday, March 11th at 6:30 p.m. at the Meadows Club in Rolling Meadows. Tickets are $120 per person and can be reserved in advance at rowtgop.org/Lincoln-Day-Dinner. I put the link on Facebook last week. The following Safer USA classes are at our facility in Waterman. Sunday, April 10th, Tactical Pistol 1 and 2, taught by David. Saturday and Sunday, April 16th and 17th, May 7th and 8th, and May 14th and 15th. Illinois Concealed Carry 1. This 16-hour class will be taught by David and Gretchen and meets the training requirements for Illinois Concealed Carry, as well as Florida, Arizona, and Utah. Sunday, April 17th, Concealed Carry Live Fire 1 and 2, taught by Eric. Also, Sunday, April 17th, Long Range Rifle, taught by Ed Janko. To sign up for classes, go to saferusa.com and click on Register.
Thank you. Been an interesting show. I'm losing my voice, which is perfect.
Yes, perfect.
We're going off. I'm finally losing my voice. But I definitely, Jim, how can people help out your campaign? How do they get a hold of you? What do they need to do?
Well, the best way you can help us out is spread the word. Make sure people know there's a U.S. Senate primary race going on. My website is my last name spelled Martyr, M-A-R-T-E-R, the number 4, the word Senate.us as in the United States. So www.martyr4senate.us. We also have a Facebook and Twitter, Martyr for Senate on both of those. And before I got in this race, everyone knew my opponent couldn't win. Everyone knew it. He lost the base. He can't win in the fall. I'm the only one who can do that. So please get out there and vote on March 15th.
Do you need any special skilled people? Does people that do anything in particular, or just you need foot soldiers?
We need, at this point, with 2 weeks left, foot soldiers, and get out there and spread the word. That's what we need. Get out there and vote.
Okay. Again,
I have a yard you can put a 4x4 in if you want to.
Awesome. We got some in the truck.
Nice big yard with the on a busy road.
the key here is he's running against Mark Kirk and he's a conservative.
What else do you need to know?
That's the key. That's
Seriously, people, what else do you need to know?
What else do you need to know? All right, we'd like to thank Jim Mark for coming into the studio this evening, and we'd like to thank you for listening to On Target Radio. Be sure to listen next week when Gretchen and I will be discussing more red meat issues that affect your life.
We'd also like to thank George Hoffman on the board, Jim Ekstrand, our announcer, and our sponsors, Nick Stella for Congress, August Duzer, Ed Brankowski, the Illinois State Rifle Association, the Aurora Sportsman's Club, and Safer USA.
I just got to say, for the new guy, right?
Yeah.
Not bad. Not bad. Can you speak?
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah. Didn't do a bad job. I got to say, he's okay. We appreciate that again, Jim. Thanks for coming in. And after you get the primary done, let's get you back in.
We'll take a picture later.
We'll do it
All right. Absolutely. Great.
All that and more. We'll be back to talk to you next week. And as always, thank you, Michael, for making it happen.
So I got a good one for